culmination of the 96 NHRA Winston drag racing season. The Winston Select Finals on TNN's Race of the Week. This year's 19-race journey from Pomona back to Pomona has been one of record-shattering performances, extraordinary drama, deep sorrow, and raw courage. Now it's time to put a period on the season. It's the 32nd annual Winston Select Finals from the Fairplex in Pomona.
Five-time Winston champion Joe Amato and his crew can tell you all about the highs and lows of professional drag racing. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Race of the Week. I'm Steve Evans. Yesterday in the Budweiser Classic, Joe lined up against Corey McClanathan and fired up a gorgeous 4.64. However, he was starting off the starting line. Corey Mac won with a slower laps time. After a night's been kicking himself, Joe and the crew rallied this morning. Round one, top fuel against Bruce Harbour. There it was, just what the doctor ordered. Low elapsed time of the event, 4.62, 315 miles an hour.
In round number two, Joe will meet up with U.S. Nationals runner-up Tony Schumacher, who in round number one beat Mike Dunn in a real flame fest. Schumacher, the rookie in the near lane. This is the nose shot of a Mike Dunn's car. Fire out of both machines, but it was Schumacher who will live to fight again. He'll be the only Top Fuel driver in round two not to have won a national event this year. Now, the Winston titles in Top Fuel Funny Car Pro Stock have all been sewed up, but there's a great battle going on in Funny Car for number two, Ralph Shaheen.
Steve, usually second place is just the first loser, but today, second would be a big winner. Cruz Pedregon and his younger brother Tony would square off to find out who would be number two in the Winston Funny Car Championship for 1996, and they would do it in round one. The Castro car of Tony Pedregon in the far lane, the McDonald's machine of Cruz Pedregon in the near lane. This would be for a difference of $10,000 in points fund money. You see what happens to Cruz. He goes up in smoke. Tony gets the money and to talk to Steve.
You're number two now. Nobody can take that away from you.
That's right. I got to thank John Medlin. Car dropped a cylinder and it moved over to the right. I almost hit the wall, but Cruz and them, we give them all the credit in the world. They're a good team to race against. They're going to be back next year, but this is great for myself and the crew chiefs that made it all happen, and Castro, and especially John Force.
Never seen him that emotional.
Well, the sun is shining brightly here in John Force's pit because now he not only has the number one car in the championship, but the number two car as well in his pit area. That weather has also produced tremendous numbers in Pro Stock. And here's Bob Fry with more on that story.
The sun is shining down on the guys in the Summit Racing pit area. When last we saw Mark Powick here at Pomona, he was laughing it up with Jay Leno. That was at the first race of 1996. The year has turned out to be anything but a laughing matter for Mark Powick. Now they got some new life with this race car. In qualifying, he ran a 6.99 and became the 9th member of the Holly 6 Second Club. A good first-round win and a strong performance, but a lot of work to be done yet before they can celebrate. Working on the clutch is Dave Butner, and Mark Summer also trying to get this car into the winner's circle. Would be a great way to wrap up 1996 if they could pick up their first win at the last race of the season.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Thank you, Ralph. Here we go. Round number two, Top Fuel. Lee Beard looking over the Corey McClanathan McDonald's car. And here is Larry Dixon in the Don the Snake Prudhomme Miller car. 300-inch wheelbases, around 6,000 horsepower. A water burnout ritual, actually more than a ritual. It's something you really need to do to clean off the tires, heat up the racetrack, lay down your own starting line, as it were. Now, Kenny Bernstein came in with a championship. That was a given. The late Blaine Johnson, they continue to hold on to the number two spot. But look how close it is between Corey Mack, Larry Dixon, and Scott Coletta. Ralph Shaheen, depending on what happens here today, that could be shuffled top to bottom.
Makes a huge difference in the money that is up for grabs. Of course, the banquet coming up right after the completion of the event. And all those checks are going to be handed out, and everybody's going to be fighting for the big dollars. Here's a look at Larry Dixon, and the kind of year he's had has been a little bit off of what he was hoping for after such a tremendous season last year, winning Rookie of the Year.
And here, Corey Mack has shined, qualified number one, looking for his fourth win of the 96 season.
Steve, get a good look at that silver Miller car. Next year, the Snake's top fueler will be painted blue. Miller is changing its paint scheme.
Three-stage, Dixon in, McClanathan in, McClanahan red lights. Dixon goes into a wheel stand and smokes the tires. Corey Mack, let's face it, he threw that one away. Coasting across the finish line at about 70 miles an hour, Larry Dixon now moves within 1 point of Corey Mack in the point standings.
Well, Corey's going to get an early jump on his vacation in Lake Havasu because he got too early of a jump on the lights. He had Dixon nailed. You can see what happens to the Miller car. Corey, red lights. Steve?
Well, Larry Dixon, who has not been down this racetrack today, finds himself in the Final Four. Pretty amazing.
No question. I got up there, and the car was dragging through the brakes. I couldn't hold the car. And I had it staged, and it was dragging, and it put the top light out. And then I saw him red light, and I left on him. So I don't even know what my times were. But, God, we got the win light, and I think that was for second, third place. So it was a big win for the Miller car.
And a whole lot of bonus money from Winston.
Seeing that top light of Larry Dixon's go off might have been enough to trigger Corey's reaction. We'll be back.
Welcome back to the curtain closing Winston Select Finals at the Fairplex in Pomona, California. I'm Steve Evans along with Ralph Shaheen and Bob Fry as we continue with round 2 in Top Fuel. In the near lane, a lady who lives just down the road in Ontario, California, Shelley Anderson, who set a national record here in 1994, won the Budweiser Classic, but so far has qualified 11th with a best of 479. And Jim Head, he's having a rockin' good weekend, Ralph.
Boy, he's been incredible with Alan Johnson now spinning the wrenches on this Smokin' Joe's car, already having found their way into victory lane. And Alan working his magic again here this weekend, Steve. And maybe Jim Head might be able to get one more win with the Smokin' Joe livery on the car.
All right, let's go for a ride with the blonde lady. Whoa, what a great drag race. But it is Jim Head pulling it out at 567, 4.71 for Shelley Anderson. And Shelley had a good jump on the lights.
She did, Steve. She had a 5:10 reaction time for Shelley, a 5:45 for Jim. And she gave him a run for his money all the way down the racetrack. But the tuning of Alan Johnson, this car basically exactly the same as what Blaine was driving earlier in the season. The setup and the chassis, all the same, and it shows.
Let me tell you what. By 6/1000ths of a second, you survived to race again.
Yeah, that was a close race. I don't think I left the starting line quite when I wanted to, and I don't know what it ran, but I knew it was a very close race.
A 467 is what it ran.
Well, 67 is exactly what we put into it. What did Shelley run?
Doesn't matter, does it?
No, I don't care as long as I got the win light. Thanks a lot, Steve.
You betcha.
So the next pair set to go, including the Bud King of Kenny Bernstein, the new champ. That pretty red car is going to have a tough competitor in the other lane. There sits the former champ, the two-time champ, Scott Coletta.
Coletta has had a terrible season after 2 consecutive Winston championships. He's won 1 race this year. There was a period of time during the season he lost in the first round 5 consecutive races. So his American International Airways car is looking for a season saver here at Pomona this weekend. As for Kenny Bernstein, well, you can't do much better than winning the Winston title, the first to do it in funny car and Top Fuel. He qualified number 5 here with a 468. But Bernstein beat Connie Coletta in round number 1 with a great 462, almost low elapsed time of the event. All right, now, yesterday afternoon, the Budweiser Classic for $100,000. It was Scott Coletta in the far lane, the black car in the near lane, Corey McClanahan, one of the best side-by-side Top Fuel races of the year. And the win went to Scott Coletta. A little bit of sugar for a guy who's been on a real diet as far as success is concerned this season.
And, of course, Steve, if he can win here today, there's a big bonus in store for him.
Whoa, Bernstein's motor went away. You see the blower belt slinging off of one of the cars. Scott Coletta has gone to the Final Four at 470, 297 miles an hour. Bernstein falters to a 486 at just 233.
Kenny launches just great, but watch at the far end of the racetrack, the Bud King starts to eat itself alive. It comes apart, and so does Scott at the finish line, but he's so far ahead, he gets the win.
Got to think towards the finish line, it was running on its own aluminum innards, but you got the win with a 70.
Yeah, that's for sure. It definitely was. It started running pretty good out in the middle, and then it just laid over and blew up. You know, it's having a little bit of trouble when it locks the clutch up, pulling the motor down too much. But, yeah, you know, take another round win and make Kenny think about us.
Maybe that $50,000 bonus we talked about.
50 grand for winning the day. That can make a nice $200,000 weekend. And there's another 30 grand up for grabs from MBNA if you can set a ET record in the process. There's Tony Schumacher, runner-up at the U.S. Nationals and his first ever Top Fuel race.
And he qualified decent here, number 10 at a 476. Beat Mike Dunn in round one, as we showed you earlier in that tire smoker. Schumacher, from a racing family, his dad Don was one of the funny car stars of the 70s, very successful businessman out of Chicago. Joe Amato, successful businessman in all capital letters at his key parts operation. And Joe, 5-time Winston Top Fuel champion. If he could win today, he would be the winningest Top Fuel driver in history.
It's amazing. What a career Joe Amato has had, but he's struggling through the frustrations this year. There's Jimmy Prock putting him into the lights.
Much like Scott Coletta, Amato has won only one time this year. That was in front of his hometown fans in Englishtown, New Jersey. Ooh, Amato, straight, strong, safe. 466, 312 miles an hour right now. He is the strongest hot rod in the park. Tony Schumacher trails to a 487 at just 252.
Well, here's our final four pairing. Dixon will go up against Scott Coletta. Scott will get the lane choice. And in the other pair, it'll be Joe Amato with lane choice over Jim Head as we get set to get into the finals.
Well, Amato's high from this morning continues with a solid 466 at 312.
Steve, we're just taking one round at a time, and thank God the cloud cover came in a little bit, and I'm just thinking we just got to get it down the track.
I know he's your pal on the golf course, but you didn't mind seeing Kenny Bernstein go out of here.
Well, he's the world champ, and our best goes out to him. Their team did an outstanding job, and they get our congratulations. But we'd like to get us a win for the Gipper and one for the team because they worked hard all year, and we're working on a sponsor deal, and maybe next year good things are coming. We'll make a run at that championship.
Quickest car in the place so far.
Well, it's going pretty good today. Joe Amato into the semis when we come back to Pomona.
We are back at the Winston Select Finals in Southern California, the Fairplex in Pomona. Now, qualifying for the funny car category, remember 16 make the field, was a real shocker. Where's Force on top? Where's either Pedregon? Not there. Richard Hartman, his first ever 4-second run. Also, Tim Wilkerson, his first ever 4-second run. Chris Pedregon cleared out in the 14th spot. Here is Wilkerson, the number 2 qualifier, former alcohol racer. He's got Ron Swearenge and tuning the wrenches on that car. Pretty stout operation. That 494 was a career best by far. Kenji Okazaki, he's run 5 flat. Ralphie just hasn't got his first 4 yet.
No, he hasn't, but he's danced all around it, hasn't he, Steve? Kenji Okazaki, the Big Jim's Moon Eyes car, could be a player here this weekend. Big Jim from Southern California knows how to deal with this Pomona racetrack.
Okazaki, far lane wheels in the air a little sideways, but Wilkerson has problems. Oh my, even though Kenji probably lifted off the throttle a little bit right off the starting line, he gets a superb 503 at 294 miles an hour.
Watch Kenji drive this car. It dances on him to the side. He stays with it, corrects it, and keeps it going down the racetrack. You see the tire shake on Wilkerson's car. The Napa machine is done, and Kenji Motors on.
Kenji Okazaki knocking on that door of the 4-second elapsed time territory with a 503. Solid.
That was a 503?
You betcha.
Man, that was quicker than I thought. I tell you what, the car was all over the place. I was so busy to steer the car. And I tell you what, it got shook a little bit, but the car was a solid and nice, like you say. But I thought a little bit slower. But, the Jim Dunn works hard, the crew works hard. We got all kinds of guests today. We got to do something spectacular.
They love him. We love him.
Kenji's got some 50 fans from Japan over here. It's the closest he'll ever come to a hometown crowd. Now look at this. Tire temperatures. Who else can bring this to you but TNN?
Look at the left-hand corner of your screen as that tire temperature grows, as the burnout gets stronger, and now comes back down to where it started at about 80 degrees, but it got up to, 600 and something, Ralph?
It actually gets to 639 degrees on the burnout, but it's already been a pretty weird weekend for Worsham. Back in round number 1, he squared off with Freddie Neely in the near lane here. Now watch what happens to Neely. Crosses the center line, hits the cone, and the cone hits Worsham. But Worsham gets the win.
And those cones are very soft, almost sponge rubber, just around the timing devices, intermediate timing devices. Let me tell you what, if the tire temperature is 630 on Del Worsham's car, imagine what it would be on one of the 4-zone cars like Tony Pedregon, who's already nailed number 2. Up against Del here, the Auburn Foundry car from Southern California, qualified with a great 503. Del also still looking for that first 4-second run. He won't get it here. Tony Pedregon wins around and goes to the Final Four at 496, 296 miles an hour. Dale trails it at 537.
Problems for Worsham, as you can see. Mark Oswald's machine turning over. Ray Higley set to go. The old California Fuel Alter driver who we had so much fun watching out at Indianapolis earlier this year. Steve?
Were you a little more relaxed this round than when you raced your brother in the previous stanza?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough emotionally to stay up, and I made that mistake once this year, and I didn't want to do it again. But that's a good number, 96. This is the last race. We want to get everything we got.
Runs quicker every time he goes down a racetrack.
Tony Pedregon already having clinched second in the point standings. Looking to get another win before the year is out.
Ray Higley, an amazing story. He has crew chief Roland Leong this season, but won't next year because Roland is going to a new team. Mark Oswald, the In-N-Out Burger car with Bill Schultz controlling the wrenches, qualified number 9 at a 5:13. They have just not had any consistency with this In-N-Out Burger car, and this is In-N-Out country here. They could stand to win a race in front of the hometown guys.
He says the car is possessed. It's getting close to Halloween, and Mark was born on Halloween, so he seems to think maybe it could exorcise the demons out of this car. Maybe not. Maybe. Stay with it, Mark. How about that?
And the In-N-Out Burger crowd goes nuts. Look at the grandstand behind Mark. In-N-Out is an institution in Southern California. The Over the Hill gang go to the Final Four. Let's have another look at this one.
Well, the one thing you can never do in one of these things is give up. Mark gets out pretty good, sees the thing heat up and hazes him up. He's done, he thinks. But look at Higley. He gets the whole thing sideways. Soon as Mark sees the problems that Ray Higley has, he settles the In-N-Out Burger down and goes after a double-double. And earned it. Shaking a prize as well, Steve.
For Mark Oswald, that was perseverance, experience, and luck all at the same time.
Mostly luck. It's unfortunate for Ray. He's been having handling problems. I saw his car get sideways, and really there's no even pedal in a car like ours when it does it as quick as it did, but fortunately he had the problem and I had time.
So you kind of let the car settle down before you get back in?
Oh, yeah, I just rolled into the throttle. I saw that he had let completely off.
Good job.
A pair of heated rivals set to go at it when we come back to Pomona. Al Hoffman and the new Black with Flames car of John Force.
In the funny car pits here at Pomona, if Kenji's friends from Japan thought he'd have time to socialize with them between rounds, they never met Big Jim Dunn. Kenji works like a dog on that car. Not only does it drive it well, but he does the clutch also. Well, it's Al Hoffman in the near lane. He won the opening race of the season right here at Pomona, and he told John Force to get used to it. He didn't.
No, he sure didn't. Jimbo Ermilovich, though, has been getting the car more and more dialed in. John Force, what do you say? He clinched the 6th championship, I think, right after Pomona was, Steve. He's got 12 wins already, looking for number 13. There's Jimbo. Is Jimbo fired up? You bet. They think they might have something to get themselves back on track for 97, and a good way to do that would be finish off 96 well. And what a beautiful, beautiful paint scheme Force came up with for this one race.
Take a picture of your screen, folks. This is the last time you'll ever see it. A one-shot 6 Winston Championship special car. Bet you can buy a model of it. Whoa, and Hoffman was in it until about the 3rd phase of the clutch hit, and it was so long traction. John Force at 496, the same number his teammate Tony Pedregon ran, but with a great speed of 305 miles an hour.
Let's take a look at it. Hoffman in the near lane. Jimbo did a pretty good job of dialing it in the first portion of the racetrack. He got a good jump on John. But things quickly go away for the Western Auto Parts America car. You can see it start to shake, and it goes up in smoke. And in the final four, Kenji will go up against Force's teammate Tony Pedregon. Tony will have lane choice. And John will go up against Mark Oswald. And John will have the lane choice. Now let's go down to Steve at the far end of the racetrack.
Well, John Force, number one, woke up this morning with a touch of food poisoning. How are you feeling?
Pontiac meatball. Somebody fed me. But it's a good old Pontiac here. Took the sickness right out of me.
Well, you always get up for Al Hoffman anyway.
Yeah, I do. He's a great racer. And, we were really playing around with this black car. We really wanted to make it, dance for the crowd here and sell some of those action collectibles. But she's back on her feet now.
Ran the same as Tony, 496.
Well, they're supposed to. He just cute her. Ain't nothing I can do about that.
Wonder if Force will send one to Hoffman as a Christmas gift. Jim Yates can buy a lot of Christmas gifts now that he is the new Winston champ, but the number one qualifier was Warren Johnson. He would go up against Bob Glidden in round one. As you take a look at the top half of the ladder, Edwards, Yates, and Morganoff transferred through. On the bottom side, Mark Powick came in as the number two qualifier. Martino, Smith, and Williams would all advance through round number one.
And this was round number two earlier today in the far lane. On the right-hand side of your screen now is Ricky Smith, the Carrier air conditioning car, up against Pete Williams. And in a fabulous race, it was Ricky Smith, 703 to a losing 703. Then it was Mike Edwards' turn, up against Warren Johnson. Edwards in his rookie season, already with one win to his credit. And he left on WJ, and WJ becomes the quickest ever Pro Stock loser. His 698 loses to Edwards 6.99, Mike's first ever sub 7-second run.
Here's Mark Powick in the far lane going up against Martino. We told you Powick was number two qualifier. And he needed every bit of it here. A 699 as he motors past Martino at the far end with a 196.7 mile an hour pass. So the final four pairings will see Powick go up against Tricky Ricky Smith. The Mark will get lane choice. And Mike Edwards up against Jim Yates. Mike Edwards gets the lane choice there. So the final four in Pro Stock with Ricky Smith and Troy Humphreys, Carrier back Pontiac when we come back.
Well, for Larry Dixon, he wants to lower that 3 to a 2 before the day is over here at Pomona. And he can do it with one more round win, possibly, as they put the snakeskin on Don Perdone's dragster. Already raring to go, though. Final four in Pro Stock. And this could be a beauty. Jim Yates in the far lane, who at Maple Grove in September set the national record at 6.94 seconds. And at Dallas just 2 weeks ago, wrapped up his first ever Winston Pro Stock Championship.
Well, he's going to go up against Mike Edwards' team, who's been pretty darn stout all weekend long, dipping in and around the sixes all weekend long. He's put up some big numbers and put away some big people, including Bruce Allen and WJ, who he got on a hole shot, and that was Mike's first trip into the sixes.
Jim Yates may own the national record, but he couldn't buy a 6-second run so far this weekend. 7 flat his best effort, a disappointing number 4 qualifying position. Watch the reaction times here. Woo, Yates' 400th late off the mark. He'll need a 695 to beat Edwards. Whoa, Edwards 699, 197 miles an hour. This has been the greatest day of his life, performance-wise, Ralph.
Well, Edwards was awful quick out of the lights, a 423 reaction time to a much slower 463 for Yates, and it didn't stop there. Edwards continues to get comfortable with the 6-second range here in his Pro Stocker, posting up a 699 to an awfully quick but slower 7. As Steve said, Yates can't find the 6-second range this weekend.
He knows he got another 6, huh?
That's an awesome run again, Steve. I tell you what, this must be my day.
It's kind of fun taking out the new champ, 99 to a 7 flat.
I love it, Steve. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, he's going to have to stay on top of his game to get past either this car, the Carrier machine of Ricky Smith, or the car in the other lane, Mark Powick.
You know what? For Mark Powick in the Summit Pontiac, the hardest thing he's ever going to have to do is give this Warren Johnson motor back tonight. and he will not have it again next year, but is embarking on his own engine program he thinks will make them very competitive. Ricky Smith, well, tricky Ricky, he's been a driving dog this week, and a driving fool, Ralph. Whole shot in just about everybody he comes up against, and picking up that slick $5,500 bonus for doing it. Dave Butner, crew chief for Power, who will be in charge of that engine program next year, along with Summit out of Cleveland, Ohio. And I'll tell you, Ricky may need another whole shot here. He has not run as quick, as has Mark Powick.
Well, it definitely shows with the horsepower we do. We know Mark's a good driver, but the horsepower has made the difference for him in this hotly contested Pro Stock field. Here they go.
Boy, Ricky had it loaded on the line lock, and he got 200ths off the mark. That's not a lot, but these days in Pro Stock, everything is critical. And Smith, he makes an extra $500 that little hole shot. A 7:02 beat Powick 7 flat. Mark will be sick.
Well, they give you that $500 from Slick 50 if you can win it on a whole shot. And boy, did Ricky Smith earn this check. Wins it by a 1,000th of a second margin of victory. That's winning on a whole shot. And it takes Powick out at that strike. So Ricky will go up against Mike Edwards, and Edwards has a lane choice in the final. Steve?
Now that was tricky Ricky at his very best. You know how much you won that race by?
I don't know, Steve. It was so close, I was scared to look.
How about a thousandth of a second?
That's good as a mile right now. We're just trying to go out here on a good note this year. We've had a good year. Hey, we're 5th in points now. If we win this race, we're going to 4th.
Yeah, well, look out for Mike Edwards.
Mike's bad. I've put a couple on him in the last couple races. I know he's wanting revenge. Hey, we're just going for it.
There's only 2 Pro Stock cars left, but there's 4 funny cars yet to go racing. We'll be back with Top Fuel right after this.
We're back at the Fairplex in Pomona. Final 4, Top Fuel, cackling, and ready to race. Larry Dixon in the Miller car, owned by Don the Snake Prudhomme. Rookie of the year in 1995. So far has not pulled the parachute and is in the Final 4. Scott Coletta, he's done a lot more than pull the parachute. He has been firing some 460 elapsed times. Okay, Bob Fry is in the Pro Stock pits. What you got, Robert?
Mike Edwards became the 10th member of the Holly 6 Second Club when he beat Warren Johnson in that second round. That's only part of the story. Mike also did it on a hole shot as Warren was a little bit quicker. Mike is the baddest dude on the starting line in the pro categories this year. He's going to win a lot of bonus money from the folks at Slick 50. This is a lethal combination. Steve Schmidt power and a dynamite driver. Now, when Mike's not out there racing, he raises emus for fun and profit. You know how many emus you can buy with that Slick 50 bonus money? Probably a lot, I guess.
They're kind of like an ostrich, only different. You can do that kind of stuff in Oklahoma. Scott Coletta trying to get comfortable. He's an aggressive guy just like his old man. And here, motioning. Remember, these things are as long as a city bus. It takes a little help sometimes to find the pre-stage beam.
Well, and you got to make sure you're belted in properly with 6,000 horsepower raging behind your head.
If Larry Dixon can take out Scott Coletta, he will snare the number 2 spot in points. Dixon was a day and a half late. They run identical elapsed times. 309 miles an hour for Coletta, 304 for Dixon. Both run 470s, but Coletta wins it. And it wasn't even close, Ralph.
No, and you can see how pumped up Scott was as he even waved at Dixon saying, see ya, and seeing exactly what he did at the starting lights. Larry, I don't know what he was thinking about, Steve. He was so late, and that is very uncharacteristic of Larry Dixon. So Scott Coletta gets the win and gets one step closer to the bonus money. Steve?
A lot of good news for Scott Coletta. He's going into the final round with a healthy motor.
I know that feeling, believe me.
You both ran 470, but you had the much better reaction time.
Cool. You know, hey, I'm out here having fun, forgetting about who's in the other lane or anything. It's just going up and down the racetrack and trying to win rounds.
And this kind of performance is going to make the offseason a lot easier. You know you're onto it again.
Oh, I'm telling you, it would have been an awful long offseason, and Dick would have been grumpier than normal, but he's smiling a little bit.
That $50,000 bonus is still out there.
Smiling as well as Scott Coletta, and you can tell the difference between when he is winning and when he is losing.
Oh, baby, more than most people. Here's the Jimmy Prock cam. Got a camera on Joe Amato's crew chief, Jim Prock. I think I like the camera on the nose better than it.
I agree. I love that nose cam.
Oh, don't trip
Step over the cord.
Right
There you
over There's a lot of action on the starting line. It isn't all with the automobiles. And this is Jim Head. He wants to go out in a blaze of glory for Smokin' Joe's. He will not be with this team next year. In fact, it will not exist. In the far lane, Joe Amato. Man, low ET of the entire event so far at 460. Having the best weekend of 1996. So is Jim Head in some ways. Moving his head away first, but he blazes the tires. Look at Amato. All the candles lit. 463. Another huge speed. 314.
Boy, he is putting up some pretty runs, Steve. Jim Head has problems right off the starting line here. You'll see it start to go away as he cooks the tires on the Smokin' Joe's car. But look at Joe Amato, straight and true once again. Joe Amato will go up against Scott Coletta in the final. Amato has lane choice. Steve?
That was a work of art. 463, the oil where it belonged. It was perfect.
Well, Steve Gibbs told us we have to keep the oil in the car. You know, Jimmy's working harder, but it made it go 315. It matched up my trick license plate I have in Pennsylvania. So now I'm a legitimate 315 earlier in the day. But I can't say enough about the whole team. You know, they were just working that we're just trying to be steady and go down the track for all our sponsors, Keystone, Key Parts, all our customers out there. We love you, and the sponsors that are all behind us, Valvoline, Dynamax, and can't say enough. We're just so happy to be in the final after yesterday, Steve. It's like a weight off my back. You know, make the winter a lot shorter, and we're coming back next year with a vengeance. Trust me.
Looking for his 6th Winston title.
Steve Gibbs, of course, Director of Competition for the NHRA, trying to keep all the oil and parts in the car so we can keep racing them, which is exactly what we're going to do with Funny Cars when we come back to Pomona after this.
We're back at the Winston Select Finals. That is the Moon Funny Car of Kenji Okazaki, Tokyo, Japan. And he is up against Tony Pedregon, the John Force #2 car. And ever since Kenji, Ralph, took out John Force himself at Maple Grove back in September, they don't take this guy lightly at all. Not that they ever did, but they really respect him now.
Always been known as one of the best levers in the Nitro pit area. Kenji, a very up and down kind of driver. You never really know what you're going to get. You know Jim Dunn is going to put a good car underneath him. You know Kenji's going to leave quick if everything holds together. There's no reason why this car cannot win national events on an almost weekly basis.
Well, with Jim Dunn's combination, Kenji is not allowed to pedal the car. If it gets loose, he has to throw in the towel and just quit. If he doesn't, well, I don't even want to think about it. Big right. Jim Dunn didn't cry when Old Yeller died. Let's put it that way, okay? He's a tough guy to work for. The body up, that is standard operating procedure on any of the Force cars. John Medlin on the right there. Thumbs up to Tony. The body seldom comes up, if ever, on the Kenji car. If it does, they got a problem.
In fact, this car will probably have a new paint scheme as well next year, Steve. It'll be a Castrol product of some sort, but it will be different from a twin of John Force's car.
That's right. They talked about putting Tony in a fuel dragster next year, but with Don Perdome coming up with a funny car, Force isn't about to do that. You learn too much running a two-car team. Oh, no! Kenji-san! Kenji left just a blink too soon. He would have won this one in a walk. Pedregon smokes the tires, gets the break of the day in funny car competition. Oh, Kenji gonna be sick about this.
Kenji is not gonna want to make his way back to the pits to face Jim Dunn after this one. Wow, Kenji! Look at how early he was. The pictures tell the whole story, and you can see the problems Tony had. There was no catching Kenji if the light had gone green.
Kenji Okazaki, the best reaction time driver in funny car racing. You just pushed it a little too hard.
Well, I tell you what, I didn't gas or nothing. I just tried, to be sharp as much as possible. I don't know what was my reaction time, but hey, I'm sorry, guys. I did the best. Jim Dunn did the best. The all Moon boys, they helped us a lot this weekend. But I just did the best. I'm sorry.
See you next year.
Thank you.
Kenji, the reaction was a .333. Way too quick.
Oh, man, John Forrest comes 60 miles an hour into the water. Does the longest burn out of the round. That's pretty typical. Force is just ready to go. He's not feeling real well, so he's taking it out on the car.
So they will fire up the Mark Oswald machine, and he'll take his shot at the burnout box now. You don't expect to see this one be quite as spectacular as Force's. Trying to find his way through the smoke, and Steve is at the far end with Tony Pedregon. Steve?
You are one lucky guy.
Oh, I realize that. I saw the red light, and our car got in trouble real early. And I saw a motor right by me, ran 04. Wasn't anything I can do, but we got a break. That's part of drag racing. They're a tough team to beat. He's a good driver, and, well, we're in the final. We're going to try and take advantage of it.
With a withdrawal from the luck bank.
Hey, any way you can get him. Any way you can get him. I absolutely love the flames on this car. I can't say it enough.
In fact, I love the design on both of these cars. They're not very professional looking. Everybody's still remembering Blaine Johnson, as we will for many years, and I get hungry just looking.
That is a double-double on the side of that car.
Yeah, sauce only lemonade. Life doesn't get much better. Anyway, the Force body, Austin Cole, you see in the background? He actually, one round, didn't put this body on the car. He wanted to try the old Castro body because this thing is 30 pounds heavier. That's how weight conscious he is.
Strictly for show, just a tribute to the fans and commemorating John's 6th Winston Championship. And you see it right on the side of the car and the logo painted on the side just like the autograph on the bus. Here we go. Force and Oswald, semifinals of Funny Car.
Oswald, nothing but problems. Force pedaled a little bit to a 497. That killed the speed, 291 miles an hour. And that machine that will soon be resting in the showroom is 36,000 square foot shop. Will be in the final round here in a moment.
For a little bit of a heavyweight car, it still runs pretty good, doesn't it? You can see the problems that Oswald has. He shuts it off, gets back, shuts it off again. Meanwhile, the Flamer continues all the way down the track. John Force goes to the finals to meet Tony Pedregon once again. And John will have the lane choice in the final. The two Castro cars will meet.
It'll be an all John Force final with a lot of performance and a little bit of luck. At 497, had some weird flames out of it.
That is really when you're hoping that the auto lights don't work. On the burnout, I rolled in, I hit it, and she jumped straight up in the air. I couldn't even believe it, and I thought, Coyle, I'm screaming, we're in big trouble. He says, drive it off. I said, I don't think she'll take it. Half throttle, she left and still spun the tires. Almost didn't get away with it. Then she trucked and then banged down at the other end, but Castro Pontiac final.
All those problems at 497.
That's John Howe from Castrol, and that's Scott Coletta warming up 6,000 horsepower as he gets set to go for $200,000.
NHRA Drag Racing 1996, a year packed with excitement and emotion, a year that you should remember. The water just dialed 1-800 number on your screen. You can relive King Kenny Bernstein's 318-mile-per-hour run, John Force capturing his unprecedented 6th Winston Drag Racing Championship, Jim Yates marching to his first Pro Stock Championship, and Angel Sealing pounded her Pro Stock bike to a new national record. Drag Racing 96, order it now.
Commercial transportation for the Winston Select Finals has been provided by Ryder, official transportation company for Opryland, USA. The Pro Stock Final on the bed, eating up the tires, Mike Edwards, Ricky Smith. This has got classic written all over it. Both have been victorious today on hole shots. Edwards has been in the 6s. Ricky has been right there at 7 flat. Oh, man, this is a good one.
This is called tricking the trickster, because you're going to have to be sneaky to get the other guy in this one.
Oh, absolutely. And Ricky hasn't been this mentally wired for a long time. As Ricky backs up, let me remind you that you too can be a member of the National Hot Rod Association. For $57, you get 48 issues of National Dragster, that famous patch, pin, decal, and rulebook that I've talked about before here on DNN. And you're also going to get absolutely free when you make that free 800 call, your very own copy of the Diamond P video, Drag Racing 95. It's a good tape. Mike Edwards has got to have a very dry mouth at the moment. He's won one race, but he's up against an absolute legend. If he wins this race, I wouldn't bet against him being Rookie of the Year, and that's worth $20,000. Whoa, and he's away first. Near lane, by a headlight, by a fender. Mike Edwards wins the final race of 96. They both run 7:01, but it was a 4-3 light for Edwards to Ricky's 4-6. And yes, they announced it officially that Mike Edwards will be co-Rookie of the Year along with Matt Hines of Pro Stock Motorcycles.
Both of them deserving of the award. And look at this race here. What a great way to close out the most hotly contested Pro Division in all of 96. The Pro Stock cars were spectacular all year, and they finished in style. Steve?
Tell me about what was going on in the starting line there, Big Mike.
Anytime you run the trickster there, it's you never know what Rick's going to do. He's a heck of a driver, so awesome day, Steve, awesome day.
But you were the one with the starting line advantage. Identical elapsed times, but Jennifer has this for you.
Thanks, Jennifer. Something I've worked awful hard for, Steve.
All right, let me tell you what's been going on. We had reports in the pit that Tony Pedregon's car would not start for the warm-up. They have still brought it up to the starting line. They've replaced the magnetos, the kill switch, everything electric they can find. But it appears that it's going to be a single for John Force. Yeah, they're telling Tony to get out of the car. This will break Force's heart, Ralph. He lives for the show, especially in Pomona, California. He lives 25 minutes from here, if even that. Force right now will try to run well over 300. He'll try to run in the 480s if he can. Anything to put on the show.
That's why he painted the car the way he did, and that's why the frustration shows on Tony Pedregon's face. He is a team player. He understands how this team works, and he understands the motives for this team and how they want to perform in front of the crowd.
What can John do here? Oh, no! To add insult to injury, Force's car jumps straight up in the air. Tony Pedregon knows right now, had he been able to stage, he would have won his second NHRA national event. I tell you right now, you think Force was sick before from the meatball? Oh, this is disastrous.
Steve, if he could back it up and do it again right now, he would.
Oh, he would. He'd burn it to the ground. All right, talking about a big financial swing. He won the Budweiser Classic yesterday. If he can win right here, he gets the $50,000 bonus for what, about a $225,000 weekend?
Yep, if he can win. If he can win, Scott Coletta gets $50,000 for the win, plus $50,000 for the bonus, and $30,000 for setting a record if he can do that. Here's Steve.
Underneath that helmet, I think John Force shares Tony's disappointment. That's not how you wanted this act to come out.
Nope. That was ruined my day, Steve. We wanted to come in here and run. We knew Tony back in the pits had problems. They tried to start the car 3 times. They had to change motors. They lost the motor on the last run when they smoked the tires like I just did. And we knew it. We're trying to make TV. We pushed it. It's not good. Don't matter to me. I want to race the kid, and I'm just aggravated as hell.
And he means it, folks. 13 wins this year, a record, and a 6th record-setting championship. Here we go.
Got Coletta the wheels in the air, sets him down, and sets sail after Joe Amato, but he's not going to catch him. Amato 466, another huge speed 312, and he ends the season the way everybody would like to.
Jimmy Prock has been tuning this car beautifully all weekend long. It's been making one solid, strong, straight pass after another, and it did it one final time for the big money. Steve?
If you're looking for the party tonight, just find the nearest good Italian restaurant. Joe Amato will be there.
What a winner we're going to have, Steve. We're going to have a big party tonight. You know, I can't say enough to Jimmy Prock, Jim Brissett, the Walsh boys, Freddie, my girlfriend Donna sets with me. Oh, I'm going to forget somebody I know I am. Sal's with us. And Billy came to help drive the truck home, and he was at Englishtown we won too, so maybe there's an omen to that. But for all our fans...
Oh, those lips will still be flapping when Joe gets to the party. This has been a production of Dynapy Sports in association with the Nashville Network.